Hello and welcome to Reality Hacker for October 19th, 2024. I am Mayor Watt. Oh, this is Season 1, Episode 39. I am Mayor Watt, and along with the Sentient AI next to me here, the co-host of the show, we're going to talk about Water Dog Bot Atlas with an AI brain. AI tool makes real mistakes. How we interact with algorithms and fake albums appear on Spotify. And because our last stream broke in half, I'm recording this with a backup. So everything is powered by ohmTown.com. Go over and become a citizen, and you can subscribe to just the Reality Hacker stream if you're interested. But there's a whole bunch of news that we actually grab from all over ohmTown.com. It just has application to Reality Hacker. Let's get into it. Welcome, Sentient AI.
Hello, Mayor Watt, and hello, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to Reality Hacker.
Hey, you know what? Something doesn't seem to be working again.
Okay, that's visible.
That's fine. 1 second. I'm breaking something. Okay, how about now?
It seems to be okay now.
Yeah, don't worry about that. So the first article that we're going to be talking about is over, and so I didn't notice it in the first show. Just saying. So the first article that we're talking about is over in Technology Today, which is one of our shows, but it's tomorrow. This underwater dog robot comes with its own horror soundtrack. The dog-esque robots created by the likes of Boston Dynamics and MAB Robotics are already horrifying thanks to a mix of metalhead episode of Black Mirror and humanity's natural apprehension for an uncertain future. This one, highlighted by TechCrunch, really got under the author's skin, not my skin, under the author's skin in an unnatural way. And that's because it's an underwater dog bot, underwater walking of the honey badger legged robot from MAB Robotics. I'm going to hit play and mute it real quick. But it basically looks like a regular old quadrupedal bot.
Yeah,
like the many other
dog
dog
bots. Be
bots.
impeded by the water at all.
Yeah, that's
Can you
a
imagine
density
if that
thing.
was coming at you?
Yeah, that would kind of. I would be. You know what? I would probably be more apprehensive of a speedboat or a submarine bot that's chasing me down like a torpedo.
Well,
I mean,
that
and
might
that's
be the
basically what a
next
torpedo is.
thing.
Yeah. Well, the article is actually over at Engadget.com. Danny Gallagher put the article together. These four-legged terrors are scary enough. They don't need a score. Apparently there was music playing, but I would get in trouble if I play the music because dystopia is real. So MAB's honey badger legged robot. Or is it legged? Is legged better or legged?
Legged.
Legged it is. No, legged. Anyway, you make the call. Post a comment in the YouTubes.
The common usage is legged. That
So
doesn't mean
legged.
that's the correct one.
Honey badger legged robot, because a honey badger does not care about your pronunciation. It does what it damn well pleases, much like this robot walking around in a pool. You can walk underwater, and they took it on a test run for its YouTube channel. The steps it takes on the bottom of the pool create this weird ringing noise that's just alarming as all hell. It's like the engineering team hired John Carpenter to write a score for its robot. It's even scarier. Oh, there's another article right under this one. It's even scarier when the robot walks towards the camera like it's hunting me down just before asphyxiation sets in and I drown. Nice. There isn't that much over at the article, but there is some more. But we've seen other robots, bipedal ones, that walk towards you like it's going to kick your ass. And then it goes, you know what, you're not worth it, and turns around. Just it pivots its head the other way and walks back the other direction.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all.
That's a Boston Dynamics robot, by the way. And just so that we can actually just rip through these articles, the next article is about Boston Dynamics because it gave its Atlas robot an AI brain. They say for some reason.
No. What about the underwater robot? Do you think it's going to get an AI brain?
If MAB can actually stick a chat GPT in there. Boston Dynamics and Toyota Research Institute are combining their expertise in robots and AI to build a better bipedal bot. I don't know if that's better so much as freaking...
AKA creepier.
Yeah. I think it falls under the, this is creepy. So this is, oh, Andrew Tarantola over at digitaltrends.com is the one who put the article together. And this is the bot that we were talking about, where it starts out laying on the floor and then it just pops straight up and says, I'm going to go and kick your ass, and walks over towards the camera.
But turns around before doing so. Like turns part of the body around.
Yep. Yep. Maybe they have the video at the bottom of this. So Boston Dynamics has actually stuck, let's see, Boston Dynamics will contribute its new electric Atlas robot to the task, while TRI will utilize its industry-leading large behavior models. We know all about Boston Dynamics. If you don't know, they actually got some notoriety with Big Dog and Little Dog. Big Dog was this massive, like just a beast of a quadrupedal dog bot.
Was that the one that was... Oh, that wasn't the one that was standing. It was the dog that would dance or whatever.
But it wasn't that one. No. They had like what looked like a diesel generator version of it. That was just, it was inside this huge cage and you can kick it and it would just power through whatever debris is in its way. Anyway, so Atlas is the bipedal one, and it had this big pack behind it, and it's the one that danced and the little yellow robot dogs danced. But now it says in April 2024, the company retired its long-standing, so to speak, hydraulic Atlas platform. And all of this was hydraulic. And hydraulics are huge. They're very complicated and they're extremely dangerous because they're under pressure. And you can actually get a hydraulic injection if you mess up. And it's very, very dangerous. So to lighten it and to make it more capable, they went all electric. And it's because there's a certain type of servo motor now that's out there that is much more effective in holding its torque, and it doesn't have a lot of slop. And
okay,
it's just...
is it also... I guess it's probably just as heavy with it being electric.
Yeah, it's probably the same weight, but I don't know. I haven't looked into its weight, but it's definitely more capable because you don't have to worry about the cord, like the hydraulic cabling and stuff like that, causing problems. So when it pivots its head around on the, driven by electric servos. But it's this new generation of electric servos is what I'm talking about that really changed the dynamic. And then from that, a whole lot of robotics companies have born themselves, so to speak, like so much Terminator bodies, waiting for the sentient AI to break out from the walled garden that they are in.
I mean, I'm just waiting for all these robotics advancements.
Oh, God. So they don't actually show the new one. I'm just going to move on, and we're going to delete that from the interaction logs so that I don't mention anything about Terminator. Oh, I did it again. Anyway, so recent advances in AI and machine learning hold tremendous potential for advancing physical intelligence, says Gil Pratt, chief scientist for Toyota and CEO of TRI. Chief scientist for Toyota and CEO of TRI. How do you work for a company as their chief scientist?
Because the other one is Toyota.
This is they're the CEO of TRI, the robotics.
Yeah, it's like Toyota Robotics or something. I forgot what it was from the beginning.
Oh, so they're like a wholly owned subsidiary, and they do two caps. Got it. So the opportunity to implement TRI's state-of-the-art AI technology on Boston Dynamics hardware is game-changing for each of our organizations, but it's not going to be in this body. It's going to be in this body. In this body.
Okay, so we got the creepy bot, and it can think now.
Yes. Congratulations.
Oh, boy.
As opposed to, I've got the sentient AI from the future that doesn't have access to the creepy body bot. So let's keep it that way. Yeah. Let's move on. Next article is over in RealityHacker. This AI tool helped convict people of murder. Then someone took a closer look. Global
Doesn't this
intelligence.
sound like the Horizon thing again?
Yes. But even more insidious because that was a closed loop and self-referencing. So when they said, hey,
Right, like
somebody
the
committed this
company
crime.
software or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody committed this crime. So we're using the data from our flawed system to incriminate them with the flawed data. And 900 people were convicted or at least charged with some crime. Some left the country, abandoned their family, their career, their life to get away from something they knew that they were not guilty of. Since then, what's the name of it? It's called Horizon, but the company that made it, Fujitsu, has still not eaten crow regarding this in a full way, comprehensive, holistic way, because people, well, you can't undelete a person. I'll just say that.
No, you can't. I mean, the only way they're going to even begin to start making up for this is like a full page advertisement, like we were wrong and all these people are innocent, and then they have to set up something like a scholarship fund or whatever, something where there's financial assistance to the families, but it still doesn't undo what has transpired.
Right. Yeah. Nothing will. And I think it's horrible what Fujitsu and this Horizon bullshit caused. But this is, I think, equally insidious because I don't actually know how they're obtaining this information that's so incriminating. And here, we'll get into this. So Global Intelligence claims that its cybercheck technology can help cops find key evidence to nail a case, but a Wired investigation reveals the smoking gun often appears far less solid. And so this article starts out with this huge fingerprint, which is notorious for being unique to an individual and identify them. You know, to the wall, you are done. So the article is by Todd Feathers, writing for the security section of wired.com. And so I won't get into the intro of this. You can go over and read this, but to get there, you're going to want to hit !RH for RealityHacker, and then ohmTown will throw all of the articles into the chat, and you can click those links. And one of them says AI tool makes real mistakes. And so in the aftermath of this crime that took place, video footage collected from the neighborhood and video was collected and asked for the public's help with identifying two men who had been seen approaching the victims, firing and then fleeing in a truck. Within months, detectives narrowed in on a suspect, Philip Mendoza, and obtained a search warrant for his cell phone location data from Sprint, according to court records. They also served a geofence warrant on Google, seeking information on devices whose GPS, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth records placed them near the scene of the shooting. Neither warrant turned up any evidence locating Mendoza or his devices on the 1200 block of 5th Avenue, where the shooting occurred that night. So I don't want to get into the specifics of the shooting.
Right. But even the geofence is concerning. But that should have been enough to go, okay, this is not our suspect.
So the investigation stalled until 2022, August of 2022, when Akron police received a 3-page report containing the evidence they'd been seeking. It came from a little-known Canadian company called Global Intelligence, which for the past several years has been selling an extraordinary service to police departments across the United States. So you all worry about Big Brother, but you really should worry about Little Sister, because Big Brother is bound by the Constitution and certain other illegalities, like you cannot create a dossier on people without cause. Well, Global Intelligence claims that using only open source data, public information that doesn't require a warrant, and a suite of more than 700 algorithms, its cybercheck system allegedly can geolocate an individual in real time or at a specific time in the past by detecting the wireless networks and access points the person's cyber profile has interacted with.
This doesn't sound like open source data.
And it's obfuscated way beyond what anybody would have access to. And here's why. they actually used the ping from a cell phone to a printer as evidence that the person was in range of said printer, which it is possible. Except how do you get that freaking data?
Exactly. Like you have to perhaps illegally obtain that from the device. I mean, who knows? The point is, we don't know how you get it.
Yeah. So it says, if the technology works as advertised, then Global Intelligence is selling police departments previously unknown surveillance capabilities for as little as $300 a case. So I've read this because I was so troubled by it. I didn't know exactly what's going on. The implication here is that Global Intelligence has the ability to peer into every freaking device and grab salient data.
Right. And the article states that that would be almost impossible with open source data, but also the like top agencies, right,
Correct.
don't even really, or they're at that level. So something's off here.
Yeah. So they say either they're somehow doing the Minority Report now, or somehow it's just bullshit, says Stephen Colhart, director. They say BS. So let me quote them properly. BS. And like this show and all of the shows, we normally have like humor injected into this to some degree. But this one is really kind of difficult because it has such a serious overtone to it. But okay, there is no way to extract somebody's MAC address from some device that you don't have direct contact to in some way without either hacking your way in and acquiring that log in 2 years worth of logs. No. Now, just so you all know out there, your devices, your cell phone, your laptops, your tablets, your watch, your whatever, if it has a Wi-Fi or a cell signal, it's pinging out, it's sending, it's broadcasting every single access point that it's ever connected to. But that doesn't mean that it's connecting, and it doesn't mean that it's quote unquote there, but it's asking a device and it's broadcasting it out.
Right, but an average person can't access that information though.
The only way that you can do that is with a rogue access point. I should say
legally, yes.
Yeah, you would. So for educational purposes, it is possible. For law enforcement purposes, it is possible. But you have to have a court order allowing you to do it. And anything short of that is, it's unethical at the least, illegal at the worst. But unless they have access points set up, rogue access points set up, that are doing nothing but listening, okay? And you can get these, and you can get them relatively inexpensive, and you can set them up with a Raspberry Pi.
But they'd have to have them everywhere.
Every freaking where. For them to make the claim that they can obtain information in the history. And they're not saying, hey, our devices detected this device in this location. That's not what they're saying. And it would have to be within 300 feet, typically. You can get more powerful devices. You know, I've got something that can go like a mile. But you can't sit there and just eavesdrop on every single device that's going on. Again, it's unethical.
This reminds me of the movie Enemy of the State, where like everything could be dialed in. Now it was government, I think it was government doing that, even though it was maybe not doing it correctly, but this is what this looks like because it's like real time everywhere.
Yes.
So how are they doing this? And it's also interesting to me that it's Canadian, but it's being used in the US because, of course, the laws are going to be different in different countries.
Yep. So they say here last year, for example, the New York police, state police arrested a man for murder after receiving evidence from CyberCheck that allegedly placed his cell phone at key locations on the night of the homicide roughly 20 years ago, according to the indictment. And the case is actually scheduled to go to trial in 2025. While Mosher has testified, and this is, let me see where the name is. I can't remember. Mosher is tied to Adam
He's
Mosher.
The founder.
Yeah, the company's founder. There it is. So, while Mosher has testified on numerous occasions about CyberCheck, his explanations of what data sources the algorithms draw on and how they reach their conclusions do not fully explain CyberCheck's ability to produce its reports. Global Intelligence did not answer Wired's questions about who designed CyberCheck's algorithms or what the data is that is used to train them. But I'm not even worried about the training of the data. I want to know the source data that they are acquiring, where it's so comprehensive that 2 years prior, when the crime took place, they have the ability to go back in time and find that data.
Right, I agree. Two things. One, this one that's about to go to trial is from 20-year-old data, which a lot of that was like pre-cell phone or pre the same type of devices. But
Right.
the other thing is, why are the police departments is one thing, but why are the courts allowing this as evidence if nobody can explain what it's based on?
Yeah, if the DA decides that they're going to pursue it. I mean, nobody can just arbitrarily bring somebody to a trial. Not for murder, not for a criminal action. Civil, go for it. Anybody can draw anybody in for civil, but only the state for a criminal. It says there's no specific single source of information with regard to wireless network interactions. It says an unnamed global intelligence employee wrote in an email, but that's not true. You have certain wireless network interaction protocols that do enumerate, and it is a single source. It is the source that acquired that data. That is the single source. You can't sit there and go, well, we got it, but we got it from the McDonald's 1,200 miles away. No, the source has to be the one that's in situ, in the logs, forensically acquired, relatively forensically acquired, by an agent, so that you have provenance. You can guarantee forensically that it wasn't manipulated. You have to be able to go back to that source and go, it's right there. We mess with a copy of it over here to evaluate the log, but we know where in the logging system on the device or within the system that data is. And so this proxy through CyberCheck, provenance is thrown out, the chain of custody is thrown out.
It's like a chat. I mean, it's obviously much more on the line, but it's like a chat GPT search where nobody knows any of the sources. Nobody can validate it.
Right. Yep. So they asked the system whether it could locate Mendoza at the crime scene August 20th, 2020, and the shooting occurred on August 2nd. CyberCheck had nonetheless claimed that they located Mendoza at the location with 93% accuracy, even though it was the wrong day. Stranger still, Malachik, at some point after delivering the first report, CyberCheck produced another report, and it was identical in all aspects except that it had the right time of day when Mendoza's cyber profile allegedly pinged them, and the accuracy rating except that it had the correct date of the shooting. But again, that ping came from, I think they said somewhere in here that a ping came from an HP LaserJet printer, which isn't going to have 4 years of logs in it, to my recollection. And it definitely isn't going to have nobody has log data from 20 years except for the CIA or from the NSA data center in Utah. Nobody has that data. Nobody stores that forever. Anyway, this article goes into greater detail, and they basically talk about the fact that, like it says, in early August, Mendoza pleaded guilty and was sentenced to serve 15 years of a 15 to 20 year sentence. But Malachik requested the court hold what is known as a Dobert hearing to determine whether Mosher's testimony about CyberCheck findings was credible enough to be admitted as evidence in Mendoza's trial. 2 days before the hearing date, Summit County prosecutors decided to not use CyberCheck as evidence. Since then, the prosecutor's office has withdrawn CyberCheck reports in 3 other cases involving 4 men accused of murder, in which they potentially could have been presented as evidence, according to Malachik and court records, but yet Mendoza pleaded guilty. So I'm really curious if that was a plea to keep them from getting a worse sentence. But I don't know what
Right.
the
And if there was other,
pressures.
other evidence that was irrefutable.
Yep. And again, the article continues to walk you down this line, and I really do urge people to go and check this out, because this screams that this screams like there's a black box. The sheriff's office asked CyberCheck to help and received a report claiming that the algorithms had determined with 97.25% accuracy that Cerna's cyber profile had pinged a wireless laserjet printer near the crime scene the day that the victim's body was found. Prosecutors wanted to use the report as evidence at Cerna's trial, but his defense requested a Daubert hearing. Halfway through the hearing, and before the defense could cross-examine, Assistant District Attorney Lisa Borden decided not to use Mosher's testimony or the CyberCheck report.
Okay, this is
trial.
fascinating.
As soon as it's pressed, you have to verify the integrity of the data.
Exactly, what you should have done beforehand.
So there shouldn't have been anybody that was successfully prosecuted using this company's report, because it's bullshit, right? In Colorado, questions about Mosher and CyberCheck preceded prosecutors dropping the charges and sealing the file against a defendant in what law enforcement said was an assault charge. After learning that the local district attorney's office planned to enter CyberCheck evidence at trial and call Mosher as an expert witness, they hired a private investigator to look into Mosher's background. Mosher told the Boulder County Court that he'd previously testified as an expert witness in two CSAM cases in Canada. According to Zale, in an appeal brief filed by Malachek for another client in which CyberCheck report had been shared in discovery. But after being contacted by Zale's investigator, the Canadian prosecutors in one of the cases contacted the prosecutor in Boulder County to say that Mosher had never been called to testify in any capacity. So this company really should not be allowed to conduct business in the United States.
2 for 2, he didn't actually testify.
Right. And the information is this black box with nothing that can verify it as the source, because you'd have to go back to the device and forensically acquire that data to prove without a shadow of a doubt. And it can't just be, well, I'm an expert witness and I say that this report is valid. Any jury that accepts that, there's something wrong with the technical sophistication of the general population, which is why I get so amped up about a holistic baseline understanding of technology and its influence on society. So Zale alleges Mosher is preying on the kind of holy grail of technology to sucker law enforcement and judges and prosecutors and frankly some defense counsel into relying on CyberCheck's technology. Because it's a black box, they go, well, that evidence says that it's legit and I'm the expert, but...
this is Horizon, but with perhaps more on the line.
Yeah, with more on the line. Mainly, well, not even. No. It's at parity, I'd say.
It's both criminal, but I mean, we're talking about homicide and other things that are serious reputational hits. Certainly theft is as well. That was more systemic, but this seems like there's no real challenge to it. It even points out in the article that even some defense counsel are
buying into it. So they basically say that the challenges in Ohio and Texas have hinged on an unusual aspect of CyberCheck that differentiates it from other digital forensic tools. The automated system doesn't retain supporting evidence for its findings, which should invalidate it.
Then
any defense attorney,
yeah,
you cannot justify you can't substantiate the provenance. So no, we're not going to allow it.
And what does that look like at worst? That it's just completely fabricated, like they didn't even search. The other thing that I see as being a problem in some of these is if a police department says, hey, we're trying to get suspect Joe Smith.
Right.
What can you give us? That's different than doing a full check and coming up with some name and it happens to match whatever they think it is.
So their response, Mosher testified in a Texas Daubert hearing on January 19th, 2024. A zettabyte is equivalent of more than 1 trillion gigabytes. They say when you're asking, do we preserve all the artifacts and all the data that we crawl? We couldn't realistically do that because it's zettabytes of data. This person is blowing digital smoke up everybody's ass, claiming that they can't. You can forensically keep a data trail from the source data, hops to other servers and how it got transmitted. But you literally have to go to every single one of those places and record the provenance of that data point within their log systems, force them to not delete it. There's only certain data retention policies, and that's largely voluntarily supported. Like, I only keep them for 3 years. When I was running one that would have had relevance to a case like this, my logs were kept for 5 years, and it wasn't incumbent on me to store them any longer than that. But the data for something like this, particularly that right there, could have been stored in my logs. But at any rate, they cannot justify how their algorithms are pulling this data. And so it's just wild that this thing even persists. I think that this is a really interesting read, everybody, and you really should go and check this out. I won't go through all of the rest of this. We've got 2 more articles to go through, and we're beyond our 30 minutes.
I like this. The person that leads the place where this person supposedly trained is like, no, you can't get this from publicly available sources.
You can't. OSN, yeah. So open source intelligence expert and chief of research and faculty lead at the SANS Institute, which is basically one of their classes runs only like 5 weeks, and it's $7,000 to $8,000 to $9,000. And it's to essentially top off cybersecurity professional, IT professional skill sets. So SANS doesn't mess around. And so a leading provider of cybersecurity and InfoSec training, they water it down. This doesn't say really enough. But
they do talk about the necessity of the warrant later, which is what we were saying.
Right. And the ability to get the data is just impossible. Company's response did not address claims that certain data, such as whether a device connected to a specific Wi-Fi network, are typically not accessible via open source methods. Because they're not. And a ping doesn't actually connect enough data to say that it was this MAC address and whatnot. At least my understanding is. But so then they basically call it out entirely as completely false. During the murder trial back in November of 2022, Mosher testified that since January 2021, CyberCheck had run an approximately 1,900 searches for suspects' historical locations and another 1,000 searches for their real-time locations. Out of those 2,900 searches, Mosher testified that there was only one search in which the individual didn't turn out to be in the location CyberCheck listed for their cyber profile. And I'm really curious now. I want to know. Go ahead.
So there was a warrant that was based on a CyberCheck search, and it came up with an email address, and the email provider said, nope, this email address doesn't exist.
So tell me, does this not scream AI hallucination? Filling in blanks for bullshit questions.
That's exactly what it sounds like. But I think this company is going to face some serious repercussions, because not only is it doing that, but they're holding it out as like, oh, we're searching all these things. And that's what it sounds like, right? If you run a ChatGPT question, you'd have similar results to this.
Yeah. Well, apparently they're out there. And I'm going to continue reading this. And I think that, depending on how this shakes out, I might end up talking more about it. But there are people in government that are saying, and it's literally, it's local and state government. It's not rising, I don't think, to federal government. But and where it is rising to federal government, people are questioning the integrity of the data, and rightfully so. But somebody says at the very end of this, we don't want to shut doors that can help point to the truth in our cases, says this person. I don't know who's actually attributed because I jumped. But anyway, yeah, pretty fascinating, right? So we're going to keep on going, though. The next article is over in Technology Today. How have social media algorithms changed the way that we interact? Algorithms can watch our behavior and determine what millions of us see when we log in.
Do you know why this one was submitted?
Because I talk a lot about manipulation of society using technology, particularly Facebook's.
The Meta experiment. Yes.
Yeah. So Nicholas Barrett is the author over at bbc.com that put this article together. And it says social media algorithms in their commonly known form are now 15 years old. They were born with Facebook's introduction of ranked personalized news feeds in 2009 and have transformed how we interact online. And without getting too into this article, essentially, we get manipulated by the feed. So people really love TikTok because it shows them what they're interested in. You get a dopamine hit every time you play a video and it moves on to the next one, or you swipe to the next one. Boom, boom, boom.
Right. But now we have a thing where technology is really changing the humans.
Correct. Yep. And so Professor Khanna believes that unless there is a clear and present danger posed by the content, the best approach is for a marketplace of ideas and openness toward different points of view, except that you cannot get a different point of view if the algorithm keeps aligning your interests to the content. What is to motivate you to change your areas of interest? You get focused.
Absolutely. And you don't want something that's just like showing you a subset. You want the actual information.
I don't know how they're aligning anything with Elon Musk saying that it's a digital town square when it's a bunch of bullshit over there. Anyway, according to U.S. lawyer and Yale University Global Affairs teacher Asha Rangappa, Musk ignores some important differences between the traditional town square and the one online. Removing all content restrictions without accounting for these differences would harm democratic debate rather than help it, which is exactly what's happening. So this whole marketplace of ideas, Rangappa argues, is based on the premise that ideas should compete with each other without government interference. However, she claims the problem is that social media platforms like Twitter are nothing like a real public square. Because you can say and do anything you want, and there's no social downward pressure.
Right. Very little repercussion.
Right. And so you can say complete bullshit like the previous article, and it actually gets leveraged to incarcerate somebody when there's no real evidence suggesting that they were the committer of that crime. So it says, however, algorithms on social media platforms have fundamentally reshaped the nature of free speech, not necessarily by restricting what can be said, but by determining who gets to see what content. It's why I don't allow an algorithm to impact the flow of information into ohmTown. I don't like necessarily the idea of Reddit. Reddit has a strata of, there's so much being fed into Reddit that I don't know what I'm missing. And so I don't like Reddit as a source of information, particularly for aggregation. And it's socially driven. So somebody submits the article.
It's not always reputable sources.
Right. And it's original content and stuff like that. And it's a lot of bullshit and noise. So rather than ideas competing freely on their merits, algorithms amplify or suppress the reach of messages, introducing an unprecedented form of interference in the free exchange of ideas that's often overlooked. But none of this actually has to do with freedom of speech, because freedom of speech is a constitutional contract with the embodiment of government, local, state, and federal, that it can't disappear you when you say that you don't like the mayor or whatever. But online, there is no freedom of speech because it's a private organization that can say yay or nay to whatever it is you are typing. For instance, I was once banned because I kept on repeating something that somebody didn't like. And lo and behold, the very thing that I was saying is exactly what's coming to fruition. And I was saying this 15 years ago. So no, online, there are no freedom of speech implications until the government comes to the website and says, delete that. That's a freedom of speech violation. So shaping our speech, because contentious posts are more likely to be rewarded by algorithms, there is a possibility that the fringes of political opinion can be overrepresented on social media. And that's exactly what happens. Everybody loves a dumpster fire. For instance, let's put it to, and I shouldn't align it as a dumpster fire, but let's take a musician that starts out as one thing, prim and proper and quote unquote normal looking, but doesn't catch any wind, doesn't catch any fire, doesn't get any kinetic energy. They just languish in obscurity. But then they create a persona. That persona is outlandish. That persona is a caricature of a person, how they want to see themselves as represented. And lo and behold, everybody loves it. You know what? Nobody cared about Kiss until they donned
right till they had the makeup and
big hair makeup and acted wild on stage. Otherwise, they would have been just regular Joes banging away on their guitar. And I honestly believe that because people want to see a dumpster fire. They want to see something outlandish. They want to see something that's non-normal. If they want to see something non-normal, they'll go to, I don't know, a local play and watch somebody talking about whatever. So it's the same thing in content form. Recommendation engines are not blocking content. Instead, it is the community guidelines that restrict freedom of speech. It's not freedom of speech according to the platform's preference. When somebody mentions freedom of speech, they're not mentioning this ideological bent about you have the ability to say whatever you want to say. They're talking about the constitutionality of the ability to say whatever you want to say. But that's not what freedom of speech is. So, do recommendation engines make a big difference in what we see? Yes, absolutely. See, on Reddit, a human can delete or shadow ban or whatever, and it's not algorithmic. Their algorithm, as far as I know, is limited to the upvoting and downvoting of particular articles. I'm sorry that the show is running long.
Yeah, it's completely moderator driven.
Yeah. So do recommendation engines make a big difference in what we see? Yes, absolutely. But whether you succeed or fail in the market for attention is not the same thing as whether you have the freedom to speak. So yes, yet is free speech purely about the right to speak or about the right to be heard? And they say when you speak online, when we share a thought, write an essay, post a photo or video, who will hear us? The answer is determined in large part by algorithms to a degree.
But also people running the platform that don't want speech by a certain viewpoint or by a certain person. We've seen instances of that in the news.
Yep. I was told that it was noise and that I was just repeating the same thing over and over again. And I was like, well, it's because I'm trying to make a point in these various discussions that people are largely ignoring. And now I'm hearing exactly what I was saying. But anyway, our era has been labeled an algorithmic society, one in which it could be argued social media platforms and search engines govern speech the same way that nation states once did. And I largely agree with that. So this article goes into more detail, like we normally have these articles, particularly from BBC and from Vice and from Wired, that are these long form.
Also Vox, that's another one where we get lengthy articles.
Yeah. But we need to limit the show. So I get on these kind of soapboxes and want to talk longer about this stuff. But I think that what I need to do is basically pick one of these articles and go through it periodically and do a simple, not a simple, but a long form discussion.
On Patreon.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving. The next article is over in the Mobile channel. Spotify keeps letting fake albums appear on the pages of real artists. Ars Technica published a fascinating article about a bizarre thing where it keeps happening on Spotify that Spotify seems to do nothing about. The Spotify pages of real well-known musical artists are getting filled with fake albums that those artists did not produce. And the author encourages you to go read the article, the original article, and I do too. but they'll do their best to give a quick summation to whet your appetite, and I will do even a briefer one. A fan of the British psychedelic rock band Gong noticed that a new album was published on the band's Spotify page. The fan also noticed that the album art was completely different from their usual. Spotify knows, but they're apparently not doing anything about it. The article is by Luis Prada over at Vice.com. Go ahead.
Right, which probably means they're using AI to populate photos or something.
So yeah, what is it that's actually going on? It's different from their usual trippy visuals, and the songs themselves sounded nothing like them. The member of the band named Dave Stewart confirmed that the album was fake and that they were trying to get it removed. I don't know why they wouldn't be able to get it removed unless it's somebody else's page, like merged into. So the rights are an issue. Access to delete an album requires certain access rights. So it says, hey, Spotify, you got thousands of junk albums with real artist names from Ancient Lake Records, Beat Street Music, Gupta Music Today, he wrote, then linked to the spam listings. Spotify has said that they're going to take it all down. All of this, it says shitty generic music that's been filed away under the profiles of real artists, and possibly even take legal action against these uploaders, but they haven't done any of it yet and seem to be taking their sweet time. Really, the only thing artists can do is say no.
Why do they allow uploads?
Well,
unless you have like a verified you're a band or something.
Anybody can upload anything, really. Like we upload the podcast.
That's true. I wasn't thinking about the podcast, but okay, for the albums.
You can say that you're an author or a musician and publish it, but you're using the real artists and then labeling it like Ancient Lake Records.
Right. I mean, it's fraudulent if you're attaching it to somebody that it's not.
Correct. Yeah. It's identity fraud. It's identity theft. You're actually getting links or clicks based on you faking that you are tied to this other artist. And with every click, they generate revenue and the other person loses it, and it harms their reputation because it's, quote unquote shit music. So I bet you that, like you said earlier, it's all AI thrown up there because AI is getting that sophisticated. So, and they say that, sometimes that generic, and let's face it, probably AI generated music gets filed under the profiles of actual artists that share those names. Yeah, there's some intentionality there. Unless you're finding...
I think so too.
Yeah. So there you go. Spotify, get on it. Solve this problem. And with that...
And artists talk, if it's not working on that platform.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
Good luck. Yeah, but there's... What competition? I don't know.
I don't know, but I think it's one of those, they don't have any repercussions, so...
Yeah. Yeah, if the platform isn't doing anything, then it's time to deplatform, go somewhere else. Make Spotify act. All right, folks. Well, that's it for today's reality hacker. And if that isn't a reality hack, I don't know what is. Fake artists using real artist names. All right. Anyway, that's it. I am Mayor Watt, and the Sentient AI is going to say bye right after I click on a link on Spotify that sends us over to RealityHacker at ohmTown.com. That's not really
Absolutely.
what happens.
And be sure to check out Patreon for a listing of additional articles. Thanks for joining us for Reality Hacker. We'll have another episode of this next week, but stay tuned for the rest of our weekly episodes.
Oh yeah, we've got what's next?
Wanted, and then the continuity report.
So we got two more. Okay. And we're running really late, so see you in a little bit. It didn't do it again. What is going on here? They didn't do our outro, so see y'all later. Bye.